being part of a prayer group. And prayer is just so powerful and important. There are these aspects that God calls us in worship and in praise to him. But within this prayer group, I really had to stop and reflect, even as a teenager, because most of the time we were talking about the word prayer and not the one we were praying to. So it doesn't just have to be with cars or money or things that we can get off track. But if we take our eyes off Jesus, those things become the idol. And when I was, again, a teenager and in that prayer group, I started to realize that prayer became the focus and not the one we were praying to. And kind of what Jesus is saying here in this scripture is that you know me, you know my words, but yet you're serving my words more than you're serving me. And I think that's a call for all of us. How do we keep from this false worship? And we might say, oh, well, great. Well, I'm not going out and I'm not spending my money on, purses or shoes or a new fancy car. And that's not where I'm putting my love and my attention. I think somebody earlier, and if you can repeat that, I think it was Sister Teresa. What was the definition of worship that you had when you first started? It had something to do with like love and intensity or reverence. Yes.
The definition of worship is reverence or devotion for a deity, intense love or admiration, a title of honor.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes we replace not just the things outside of the world, but the things in our church with that kind of love. And so when focusing back on this, we can sometimes also listen to people or theories more than we can scripture. And it says here in the Sabbath school reading that many of the great intellectuals of the world of today are focused on this naturalistic view of reality. Many disciples studied in schools today are studied from the perspective that often means they're taught contradictory to scripture. So they're more theorizing and putting that into practice than what the scripture's actually saying or the one who created the scripture. There's a verse in Psalms 27. It says, some trust in chariots, but I will trust in the Lord my God. So looking at this, are we going to trust in what the words say, or are we going to trust in what God has shown us in our hearts and what scripture is saying and bring that together in trueness, in holiness, in worship? This might be a little bit different than from where the Sabbath school lesson was going, but I just felt that God was really bringing it back to how do we keep from having these idols inside and outside of the church, and that focus is on Jesus. That's where the real worship is. So I was wondering if we can look at 1 Corinthians 13. And this is something somebody showed me a while ago. We often apply this to worldly love or loving one another. But worship, as we learned, is this love, this intense devotion, and it's something we can't always just have ourselves. We have to trust, like in the book of Daniel, when the young men, they trusted God. They relied on those words, and they took it and they brought it into their hearts. So if I can have somebody read this, and instead of the word love, we can put the word Jesus here, and figuring out how do we, again, escape ideology, escape from just the words into true worship, into true holiness. If we can go back to the first, put in the word Jesus. Do I have anybody that's willing to read it that way?
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not Jesus, I am become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. Again, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountain and have not Jesus, I am nothing. And Amen. Though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not Jesus, it profit me nothing. Go on.
Yeah, keep going.
Jesus suffered long and is kind. Jesus envieth not. Jesus vaunteth not self, nor not puffed, or itself is not puffed up, does not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, and is not easily provoked, rejoiceth in rejoiceth not in iniquity, rejoices in the truth. Continue.
Yes, yes.
Beareth all things,